You would never get to know the real story behind why the former heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson punched a fellow passenger on the aircraft. Why did the world's most famous boxer get out of control to punch a man? What did the man say to provoke him? Watch this video to learn everything about what happened. A video went viral soon after Mike Tyson launched his legendary blows on a defenseless passenger on an aircraft. That was pretty much it to make things worse for Tyson as a celebrity. Now, was Tyson truly at fault? Mike Tyson has always been reported as a hot-headed guy. This hot temper has landed him in most of the troubles, and the aircraft blows were the most recent ones. Well, before just making stories about him, one must know that Mike wasn't the one who started the entire fight. The fellow passenger on board made every effort to harass Mike in front of all fellow passengers and the crew. The passenger even threw a water bottle at Mike, which was enough to make Mike lose his cool. The man who got punched was identified as Melvin Townsend. Melvin hails from Punta Gorda, Florida. Well, interestingly, Melvin was listed as a habitual felony offender by local authorities for his regular offenses. In these official records, after investigation, it was found out that Melvin has previously been convicted for several crimes ranging from fraudulent activities by faking an identity to theft. He was even charged with trafficking stolen property, among others. There are a lot of unsolved questions. Why did this pleasant encounter begin with a picture and conclude with a thrashing? What triggered Iron Mike's outburst? Mike Tyson is flying JetBlue for the first time. Finally, what type of jerk would put Mike Tyson through that? Here's the full story. On a Miami-bound JetBlue flight that started off from San Francisco on April 20th, 2022, a Wednesday to Florida in the evening had the legendary former heavyweight boxing champion and actor Mike Tyson traveling with it. According to the event website in an online video, Mike boarded the flight in order to attend an event at 420 Hippie Hill in Golden Gate Park to promote his cannabis brand, Tyson 2.0. Interestingly, the 55-year-old boxing legend, as seen in the cell phone footage posted by TMZ, was repeatedly punching the fellow passenger. It was alleged by the witnesses that the passenger started to harass Tyson after he stopped responding to all fans. It was confirmed by a witness that even before Mike could get on board, two men greeted Mike while boarding. Soon after, more people started to surround Mike and tried to engage him in all conversation. The veteran boxer got tired of engaging with his fans and also requested them not to disturb him anymore. However, while everybody started to mind their own business, this overly eager fan did not pay attention to Mike's request and continued to speak. The overexcited fella never knew when his normal queries turned into physical altercation, and he accidentally threw a bottle at Mike, which got this man Melvin showered with smacks by the boxing champion. Even in the video that went viral, Melvin did not sit for once. Rather, he kept on speaking, waving his arms and talking animatedly while the former boxer sat quietly. The footage also recalled Mike Tyson leaning over the back of his seat and punching the man in a flurry of blows till the other intervened. According to reports, Melvin was half bleeding. Joanne Mignano, the representative of Tyson, said in an email to the Associated Press, "Unfortunately, Mr. Tyson had an incident on a flight with an aggressive passenger who began harassing him and threw a water bottle at him while he was in his seat. Investigation in this regard has begun." From Mike's side, the statements are clear that Mike's action was reciprocal to the harassment of the 35-year-old lad. On the other side, Townsend's lawyer contends that his client did not throw any bottle at the boxing legend. He said, and we quote, "Our client denies throwing a water bottle prior to being struck by Mr. Tyson. Now, this might actually be a valid and strong defense because if Mike cannot prove any provocation, it would be simply unruly of him to smack Melvin with his bag full of punches, and Melvin will get a free walk home with a lot of fame." Nowhere in the video was captured that Melvin was throwing a bottle at Mike. So the only way to prove or disprove would be through fellow passengers' testimony. Even in the video posted by TMZ Sports, it was only shown that a man stood there and never stopped speaking. It wasn't found in any of the clips Melvin threw in a water bottle. Matt Morgan, attorney to Townsend, defends him, saying that his client is a big Mike Tyson fan and therefore his actions were pure excitement. He meant no harm, even if he did not throw any water bottle at him. According to Morgan, exactly when Mr. Tyson boarded the flight, Townsend became overly excited. Townsend revealed that their first interaction interaction was cordial. However, after a certain point of time, Mr. Tyson became agitated by an overly excited fan and began to strike him. Morgan believes that this situation could have been simply avoided if Mike had been practical and contacted a flight attendant. Furthermore, to state the obvious, as one of the greatest fighters of all time, Mr. Tyson should have known not to use his hands on an overly excited fan. This argument does make sense. However, we need to understand the mental state of Mike Tyson as well. Tyson has been upfront about the trauma he has experienced through his life, and he owes his lack of self-control to it. Tyson had previously visited a doctor who, according to him, could immediately determine he had fear issues as a result of trauma, which was the source of his rage outbursts. The Hangover star has acknowledged that he and his parents had a strained relationship. His father was rumored to have abandoned him when he was a baby, and his mother was an alcoholic who ignored him. As a child, he was kidnapped and sexually raped on the street. Therefore, this wasn't the first time Mike used this boxing talent outside the ring. In the 1980s, he even broke into a zoo to fight a gorilla, and he served time in prison for assaulting motorists after a traffic accident. Tyson has been candid about his problems with the world in recent media appearances. This should also serve as a cautionary note. After the massive suit against Tyson, where he served 3 years in prison after being convicted of rape in the 1990s, he has maintained his innocence since then. On the news, concerned authorities were dispatched to the physical altercation on board the airplane located in the domestic terminal of the San Francisco International Airport. The San Francisco Police Department arrived at the location and had the 2 subjects detained that were actively involved in the matter. One of the subjects, Melvin, was treated for non-life-threatening injuries, according to the police statement. It was also recorded that the subject provided minimal details of the event and had refused to cooperate further with the police investigation. Both the detainees were released on pending further investigation notice. The police department stated that it was aware of a video that could have captured the altercation and had provided it to the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. Detective Javier Acosta of the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office told CNN that his office would handle the inquiry going forward, but he declined to name either individual, citing the current investigation. CNN has reached out to JetBlue Airways for comment, but they have yet to respond. The only comment that CNN received was that the FAA would look into all airline reports of passenger disturbances. Let's talk a bit more about Melvin Townsend. 35 years unruly passenger, has a good criminal record. Daily Mail reported that Melvin Townsend III was released from prison in 2020 after serving 20 and 15 months in jail for a variety of crimes. He has had an active history of burglary, possession of oxycodone, grand theft, and trafficking of stolen items. According to TMZ, he stole a trailer in 2018 by trespassing and attacking the RV with his pickup truck. In July 2020, he was released from a Florida prison after completing 15 months of a 25-month sentence for the incident and for using a fraudulent ID. In 2009 and 2010, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Noting both the characters here, each one of them has faults and a history of what they did on the plane. Till now, it is unclear whether or not Melvin Townsend will file a suit against Mike Tyson. However, Townsend has a fair opportunity to get some cash if he files a suit against Tyson on the grounds of defamation. Because more than sympathy now, the world knows that Townsend is a criminal. Few celebs are standing for Mike because they have faced such a situation, where you want to be alone but you can't and you have to keep acting to be nice. Sarah Birchfield, a passenger, testified that the man Tyson punched at an airport bar earlier appeared loud and quarrelsome. And when he got on board, she exclaimed, "Oh no, that drunk guy is on our flight." The fight will turn interesting only when Melvin does anything about it. Anyways, after the pandemic, unruly passenger behavior spiked up. 2021 was the worst, according to the FAA. They decided to launch a zero-tolerance policy to include issuing fines instead of warnings. As of 2022, FAA's unruly passenger reports have crossed 1,233. Now the question to you is whether the pandemic is a valid excuse for Mike Tyson with a history of anger issues. Should Melvin sue Tyson for defamation? What's your take? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell.